Every generation of football has that one moment when a kid stops being just another prospect and suddenly the world realizes they're witnessing history. But this time was different.
Nice curl!
Because when 16-year-old Lamine Yamal stepped onto that pitch against France, he didn't just score a goal, he silenced the very player who said he wasn't ready.
Oh, in Rabiot's face! In Rabiot's face!
And in the next 10 minutes, I'm going to show you how one strike didn't just make Yamal the youngest scorer in Euros history. It transformed him into the teenager the world now compares to Lionel Messi. When Spain lined up against France at the Euros in 2024, most expected the weight to fall on their veterans. Rodri, Morata, Carvajal, Pedri and so many others. But tucked into that lineup was the youngest player on the pitch, and probably the most important. But here's the thing, Lamine Yamal's explosion onto the world stage didn't come out of nowhere. For those who had been watching closely, his rise felt less like a miracle and more like destiny. Because Yamal wasn't just another La Masia graduate, he was the kid who never played at his own age. At 9, he was destroying 12-year-olds. At 15, he was already training with Barcelona's first team. Every time the bar was raised, he cleared it like it wasn't even there. And it wasn't just about his talent, it was courage, fearlessness, the kind of maturity you don't expect from a teenager who should still be in school. That's why when coaches talk about him, they all say the same thing. This one is different.
Has anyone done what this guy's done? He was playing, he broken all the records in terms of like youngest to play in La Liga, youngest to score, youngest to assist, youngest to play for Barca. Like, it's just crazy what he's done. He's broken all those records. He's the youngest.
To date, Yamal still stands alone at the top when it comes to kids his age in terms of talent. And you could even make the argument that he is in the conversation for the absolute best in the world today. But here's the question. How does a skinny kid from Rocafonda go from street football to carrying Barcelona's future to starting for Spain in the biggest tournament of his life? During Barcelona's golden era under Pep and Luis Enrique, greatness wasn't bought, it was built. Busquets, Xavi, Iniesta, Jordi Alba, Piqué, Messi. The system worked because the club trusted the kids. But somewhere along the way, Barcelona lost that identity. They chased Galacticos instead of graduates. They spent fortunes on stars who never fit. And the ultimate downfall came with Bartomeu's corruption, financial chaos, and the heartbreak of being unable to even renew Messi's contract. By 2023, the transfer market was a battlefield Barcelona couldn't even enter. The money was gone. The magic was gone, and the only path left was the one they had abandoned. So Xavi turned back to La Masia, and among the talents he handpicked, one name stood out above the rest: Lamine Yamal. In April 2023, Yamal, at 15 years, 9 months old and 16 days, made his debut against Real Betis in a 4-0 win, and almost scored a goal instantly as well.
And that's been nicked off of Montoya by the youngster, and it's saved! From Rui Silva.
Most thought it would be a short, beautiful cameo, a chance to say we've got another La Masia talent cooking. But as you already know, the story played out differently. Because in those few minutes against Real Betis, Yamal didn't look like a child stepping onto the Camp Nou grass. He looked like he belonged, and the story didn't stop there. By the 2023-24 season, Yamal was starting games every week, and he wasn't just featuring either. The kid was showing up and showing out against veterans.
He's good enough to play for any team in world football. That's how good I think he's a superstar.
He was making Barcelona's right wing his own. The pre-season clash with Tottenham, he lit it up. His Champions League debut against PSG, he played without fear, like the occasion meant nothing. Honestly, if you didn't know his age and you were to guess, you'd comfortably say he's in his prime, kind of like Palmer. Because the way Yamal drifts in behind, sees passes before anyone does, and creates magic almost out of nothing, it's almost too poetic. And it was exactly because of this burst of talent that the whispers began. Barcelona had found something rare, not just another academy gem, but the kind of player you build a team around. But while Barcelona tried to manage his rise, another battle was brewing. Because Yamal wasn't just Barcelona's secret anymore. He was the centre of attraction. Spain wanted him, Morocco wanted him, even Equatorial Guinea tried to stake their claim.
How do you protect him when he's so good? He's good enough to play for any team.
It didn't feel like an international selection, it felt like a transfer war, except the prize wasn't a trophy. It was a teenager who wasn't even old enough to travel alone. But as you already know, when the dust settled, only one federation was willing to risk everything on him: Spain. But the decision to stake Spain's future campaigns on a 16-year-old didn't sit well with everyone. And this gamble would ignite debates long before a ball was even kicked. In reality, on paper, before choosing Yamal, Spain had safer options. For example, Brahim Diaz, proven, experienced, in form, and a Real Madrid star. But it veterans who had already carried the shirt in big games. And yet, Luis de la Fuente made the call that stunned the football world. He didn't pick Diaz. He picked a 16-year-old with barely half a season of senior football behind him. For many, it felt reckless. Yamal was still just a kid, unproven on the international stage. The kind of player you usually protect, not build a campaign around. But maybe, just maybe, Spain saw something the rest of us had missed, because years earlier, at a UNICEF event, Yamal had crossed paths with Lionel Messi, and in a photo that now feels prophetic, Messi rested his hand on Yamal's shoulder, as if football itself was passing the torch. A silent moment, a reminder that greatness sometimes arrives sooner than expected. So when Spain placed their entire Euros campaign on his shoulders, it wasn't just a gamble, it was destiny being tested. But destiny isn't proven on paper, it's proven on the pitch. And as the Euros of 2024 began, every touch, every dribble, every decision Yamal made was under the microscope. A 16-year-old carrying the hopes of a nation. The world was waiting to see if the gamble would break him or reveal something extraordinary. Going into Euro 2024, the weight wasn't fully on Yamal. Spain still had veterans, depth, familiarity, Nico Williams creating width, Pedri dictating midfield, Morata or Joselu finishing, Rodri anchoring, the list goes on. Yamal was the spark, not the flame. Spain weren't even the favourite. Germany at home had a better chance. Also, there was already pre-tournament talk of France, England and Portugal being stronger. And they were right, to an extent. Spain were no longer the powerhouse they were in Iniesta's era, and Luis de la Fuente hadn't even proven himself yet, at least not at the top level. He already had much success with the under-21s, but expectations were tempered. So, if the teenage gamble had failed, there were others to step in. But Yamal wasn't about to be a fallback and be the passenger in someone else's story. He was about to write his own, and from the very first game, you could feel it. At 16 years and 338 days, he became the youngest player ever to appear at the European Championships. And as if that wasn't enough, on the same night, Yamal also became the youngest player to have a goal contribution, as he feathered this wicked cross for Dani Carvajal in the 3-0 win against Croatia.
In by Yamal and touched in!
Suddenly, the teenager was gradually making both history and headlines. Next came Italy, a brutal test of resilience. Italy lost that game 1-0, but what stood out was Yamal's maturity. He didn't score or assist, but he stretched defences, forced fouls, and created panic. It wasn't the flashy numbers, it was the influence. You could see defenders looking twice before stepping up to him. At 16, he was already commanding respect. Then Albania, another 1-0 win. Yamal again in the starting 11. By the end of the group stage, Spain had 3 wins, 5 goals scored, and remarkably, 0 conceded. And though the stats only showed 1 assist, the reality was clear. Yamal wasn't just part of the squad, he was the one who made Spain's attack click. But even if he was quiet in the group stages, the knockouts changed the temperature entirely, because as you already know by now, Yamal loves the big stages. And now it was his time to show the world what Hull could truly do. In the round of 16 versus Georgia, Spain fell behind early, needing a sort of huge boost to come back. So Yamal did his thing.
Yamal again, inviting ball, must be! Spain have turned it around!
After putting up an outrageous performance the entire game, Yamal turned the game entirely on its head with this beautiful assist to Morata for 2-1, becoming the youngest player ever to register a knockout assist at the Euros. And after that, Spain took care of business as usual. But the real test came in the quarter-finals. Spain against the hosts, Germany, in Stuttgart. A classic showdown that went to extra time. With the tension everywhere, Yamal yet again produced this. threading another crucial assist to push his team even further. That assist made it 3 goal contributions in total now.
Spain are in front. What a goal it is. Brilliantly executed.
He equalled Cesc Fabregas's Spanish Euros record, but take note, he did it at 16. By now, there was no hiding the truth. Yamal wasn't just the spark to that team. He was also part of the reason they burned brightest. And yet, the biggest stage was still to come. France in the semi-final, Kylian Mbappe on one side, Lamine Yamal on the other, destiny against destiny, one wonder kid against another. The kind of clash that doesn't just decide a tournament, it decides legacies. What better stage to truly announce your arrival than this? The stage was set for the most exciting game of the entire tournament so far, France versus Spain, a heavyweight clash. On paper, France were the favourites. Why not? They were recent world champions. They'd gone toe-to-toe with Lionel Messi's Argentina in 2022 and almost stole it.
Trying to find Mbappe now. He'll steer back inside Thuram. Mbappe!
And now they stood against a young Spain side many thought wasn't ready. But here's the thing. This wasn't just any Spain team. This was a Spain team with Lamine Yamal, a Spain team with something to prove. And if Yamal didn't already have fire in him, Adrien Rabiot gave it to him on a platter.
Et que pour pouvoir jouer une finale d'Euro, faudra en faire bien plus que ce qu'il a fait jusqu'à présent.
If he wants to play in the final, he'll have to do more than he's done so far. Those words weren't just a quote, they were a challenge to Yamal. And what followed wasn't the same kid from the group stages. What you're about to witness is a different Yamal, sharper, hungrier, ready to take his moment. And Rabiot, he was about to be the first victim. The game began with Mbappe on one side, chasing history. Yamal, on the other hand, is 16, chasing destiny. Then it happened. Yamal picks it up outside the box and does this.
Nice curl! Oh, I say, what an unbelievable goal!
That night, history was made. The youngest goalscorer ever at the Euros. At 16, against France, in a semi-final, the stadium erupted. That goal was indeed special, but you know what else? Would you believe it that this kid did it literally right in front of the same Adrien Rabiot, the same man who told the world Yamal wasn't ready, and now the ball was in the net past him. Honestly, even I couldn't have written a better script. Yamal hadn't just answered back, he'd announced himself to the world, right there and then. From that moment, Spain never looked back. Dani Olmo added a second. France tried to rally, but it was over. Full time, Spain 2, France 1. But one moment told the whole story. Yamal smiling, standing tall. That was the moment. The chain of destiny wasn't waiting for Messi, Ronaldo or Mbappe to pass the torch. Lamine Yamal took it for himself. But here's the thing. Beating France was only half the battle. The real test was waiting at the very end. Could a 16-year-old kid, fresh off making history, actually carry Spain all the way and win the Euros final? July 14th, 2024. Spain versus England. England came into this final desperate. For decades, football's coming home had been a song, not a reality. An army of stars England had prepared for this exact moment. And after heartbreak in 2021, they weren't here to play second place again. But Spain had something England didn't. Spain had a 16-year-old who had already defied every law of football logic. And yet, here's what's crazy. At kickoff, nobody thought this would be Yamal's final. England's plan was simple: shut him down, press him, push him wide, make him disappear. But from the very first touches, you could feel it. Every time he got the ball, England's defenders couldn't do a thing. The kid was too calm, too confident. He didn't look like a teenager on borrowed time. He looked like the best player on the pitch. Then came this moment again. Yamal surges forward, draws 2 defenders, slips it through. Nico Williams finishes. Spain 1, England 0. Another assist, another record shattered. The youngest player to ever assist in a Euros final. And just like that, the tone was set. England fought, but Spain strangled them with control. When the whistle blew, it wasn't just 2-1 Spain. It was a coronation. The youngest Euros winner ever. The youngest finalist ever. A tournament with more assists than almost anyone else. Records that might stand for decades. But more than the numbers, it was the image. 16 years old, holding the trophy aloft, smiling like it was just another La Masia training day. For Spain, it was redemption. For football, it was prophecy fulfilled. And for England, it was heartbreak again. If you want to follow the story of how a small-town farmer boy became the best defender on the planet, check out our video here.